Many believe that to become the best, they first need to have success, recognition, or extraordinary results. They wait for life to give them proof, for others to validate them, for the world to confirm their worth before daring to act with confidence. But that moment never comes. And while they wait, they continue living as if they were ordinary, limited by doubt and insecurity. I, Myles Munroe, have learned that the secret to becoming the best is not in what you get, but in how you choose to act before obtaining it. If you want to achieve greatness, you must begin to move, speak, think, and behave as if you were already the best version of yourself. Because your mind does not distinguish between what you pretend and what is real. That which you repeat with conviction ends up becoming the truth. Acting as if you were the best is not arrogance, it is faith in action. It is choosing to see yourself as capable, disciplined, and powerful until that vision solidifies in your character and reality. If you want to be great, start today by behaving accordingly, because life does not first give you the crown, it gives it to those who already act like a king. Acting as if you were the best does not mean deceiving yourself or living in a fantasy. It means adopting the mindset and behaviors of someone who has already achieved what you seek to accomplish. Most men make the mistake of waiting to feel confident before acting, of waiting to have results before showing firmness, of waiting for external validation before raising their head and saying, I can. But the truth is that confidence does not come first. What comes first is action. And that action is what builds confidence. When you start acting as if you are already the best at what you do, you begin training your mind to accept that identity as your own. Your language changes, your posture changes, your energy changes, and over time, your results also change. The man who acts as the best projects a confidence that others feel. That confidence is not arrogance, it is not showing off. It is conveying with every gesture that he is committed to his vision. How does a leader walk? With an upright back, with firm steps, with a focused gaze. How does someone who trusts himself speak? With clarity, without hesitation, conveying certainty. How does a man who considers himself the best face challenges? He does not hide, he does not lament. He faces them with the conviction that he will find a solution. When you adopt these behaviors, even before achieving results, your environment begins to respond differently. They treat you as someone reliable, seek you as a reference, see you as an authority, and little by little, your reality begins to align with your new way of acting. Acting as the best is also a powerful psychological strategy. Your subconscious mind does not distinguish between what it imagines and what it experiences. Every time you behave with confidence, every time you take on a leadership role, you are sending messages to your brain that you are already that man. With repetition, these messages become convictions, and these convictions guide your automatic behavior. The circle completes itself. Act as the best, feel as the best, and start obtaining results that confirm it. This is the principle of self-image. You become what you consistently believe and demonstrate yourself to be. But here's the key. It is not about waiting to feel ready. It is about starting now. Those who wait never arrive. Those who act, even with doubts, even with fear, even if they don't feel prepared, are the ones who advance and achieve extraordinary things. The man who says, when I'm ready, I'll do it, will never be ready because preparation is never perfect. In contrast, the man who acts as if he were already the best becomes the best precisely because he dared to start without waiting for ideal conditions. From today, imagine what the best in your field would do, how he would think, how he would organize his time, how he would take care of his body, how he would face problems, and then do it. At first, it may seem difficult, perhaps even artificial, but if you persist, there will come a time when you no longer have to pretend. You will have become what you decided to represent. Because success is not achieved by waiting to feel capable, it is achieved by acting as if you already are. That is the difference between those who remain dreaming and those who build a life of greatness. When you act as if you were the best, you begin to place your mind in a state of higher demand. You no longer allow yourself to justify with small excuses. no longer tolerate mediocre behaviors, no longer accept half-hearted results, because someone who is the best does not seek shortcuts. He seeks excellence. And that excellence is not an isolated event. It is a daily standard. The average man settles for doing enough to get by. The man who acts as the best knows that every task, no matter how insignificant it may seem, is an opportunity to demonstrate discipline, practice greatness, and train his character. That is why the difference between the two is not in their talents, but in their standards. One lives with the minimum necessary, the other demands the maximum possible. Think of great athletes, business leaders, men who transformed their field. All of them began acting as if they were the best long before being recognized as such. They trained longer, cared more for their minds, disciplined themselves more rigorously, spoke with more determination. What distinguished them? They did not wait for someone to give them a title to behave like champions. They acted like champions, and eventually the world recognized them as such. Greatness is an invisible habit practiced in daily life, long before it becomes visible in the extraordinary. This principle has a multiplying effect. The more you act as the best, the more confidence you develop, and the more confidence you develop, the greater your capacity for action becomes. That confidence pushes you to make decisions that others do not dare to make. It leads you to persist when others give up. It drives you to try again when others have already quit. Every time you behave as if you already have success, you reinforce within yourself the belief that it is possible to achieve it. Such a belief is the fuel that keeps you steady on the path, even in the toughest moments. It is important to understand that acting as the best does not mean being perfect. No one is. It means getting up every morning with the intention of giving your best in every area that matters, in your discipline, in your work, in your health, in your relationships. It means that even if you fail, you do not give up or hide, but use the mistake as a learning opportunity to improve. The man who acts as the best understands that every fall is part of the process, that even defeats strengthen him because they force him to adjust, grow, and surpass himself. And something powerful happens when he adopts this approach. He begins to surround himself with opportunities. People notice his attitude, trust his energy, choose him because he conveys the certainty of someone who knows where he is going. Those who act with doubt attract uncertainty. Those who act as the best attract respect. You do not need to shout that you are the best, nor prove it with empty words. You only need to live it consistently. The way you present yourself, face challenges, and persist in your discipline speaks louder than any declaration. And that consistency is what over time truly turns you into what you decided to represent from the beginning. Acting as if you were the best means adopting today the beliefs that sustain extraordinary men. Because the difference between an ordinary man and one who transcends is not in his initial abilities, but in his mindset. The average man thinks about limitations. I am not ready. I am not talented enough. I don't have enough resources. The man who acts as the best thinks about possibilities. I can learn. I can improve. I can overcome any obstacle. This mindset forces him to move forward, even when he does not have all the answers, even when fear pushes him back. Thought creates action, and repeated action shapes identity. By acting as if you were the best, you are training your mind to stop seeking excuses and start seeking solutions. This inner change reflects externally. A man who acts as the best does not wait for his environment to be perfect to move. He starts with what he has, where he is, and does it with all the seriousness of someone who believes in his purpose. He does not underestimate small progress because he understands that excellence is built brick by brick. He does not seek immediate recognition because his focus is on the process, not on approval. And that silent consistency, that daily decision to behave like a leader, even if he does not yet have followers, gradually places him in the position of influence he desires. Greatness begins to show in the details, in how he organizes his time, how he cares for his body, how he manages his words, in how he behaves even in moments of difficulty. The man who acts as the best gets up with a clear purpose, takes care of his image because he understands that the way he presents himself sends a message, speaks with intention because he knows that his words build his reputation. Everything he does reflects discipline, and when he behaves this way consistently, he inevitably becomes someone reliable, someone others follow, someone who inspires. Most importantly, this principle does not depend on what others think of you. At first, they may look at you skeptically. They may criticize you. They may even ridicule you for daring to act with confidence before having visible results. But remember, people doubt what they see until the results become impossible to ignore. And when that moment comes, won't it be that the circumstances change suddenly? Will it be because you decided to change first? Because you had the courage to act as if you were the best before the world confirmed it? If you think about it, this is the only real way to grow. No one becomes great by waiting to feel ready. Everyone who achieved it acted before feeling prepared. And that repeated action, sustained despite fear, was what forged their confidence and consolidated their success. You do not need to wait for permission, a signal, or recognition. You only need to start acting right now as if you were already the best version of yourself. With every step, every habit, every decision, you get closer to the life you have dreamed of. Acting as if you were the best also requires courage to maintain that behavior in the face of doubt, fear, and criticism. Because there will be voices that try to bring you down. People who tell you that you are exaggerating, that you are arrogant, that you should put your feet on the ground. But remember, those who do not dare to act with greatness will always want you not to either, not because they care about your well-being, but because your determination reminds them of their own mediocrity. The man who acts as the best is uncomfortable because he exposes what others could be but do not dare to try. And if you want to become extraordinary, you must be willing to bear that discomfort, withstand criticism, and walk firmly, even if you are pointed at. Here is where the power of example is revealed. When you act as if you were already the best, you not only transform yourself, you also begin to transform those around you. Your disciplined habits inspire. Your confidence is contagious. Your determination raises the standards of others. Even those who first question you, over time, will be forced to recognize that your way of acting has taken you further. And even if they continue to look for excuses, you will have already found results. That is the multiplying effect of behaving as the best. It not only changes your destiny, it also becomes a reference point for those seeking a higher path. Therefore, never underestimate the power of consistency. One day, acting as the best changes nothing. A week may motivate, but months and years acting with that mindset make you someone unrecognizable. Someone so firm in character that neither defeats nor failures can sway him. The world respects those who remain steadfast in their decisions. And that steadfastness does not come from waiting for everything to be perfect. It comes from practicing excellence even in imperfection. Now, I want to remind you of something important. This path is not reserved for a privileged few. It is available to anyone who decides to commit to it. And if you are listening to this message, it means that deep down you already know you have what it takes to live this way. That is why I ask you to subscribe to this channel. Because here you will find the guidance and motivation that will help you maintain this mindset every day. I also want you to leave something personal in the comments. What aspect of your life would you change today if you started acting as if you were already the best? That reflection can mark the beginning of your transformation. Because in the end, the key is simple. Stop waiting and start acting. Stop dreaming of being the best and start behaving as such. Every decision, every gesture, every conscious action is a brick that builds your greatness. And while others continue doubting, you will already be advancing toward the life you deserve. Because the man who acts as the best eventually becomes so. Acting as if you were the best does not mean living an illusion. It means imposing a higher standard on your mind and body than you are used to. It means demanding of yourself even when no one else does. Giving more than others expect and refusing to settle for enough. The man who acts as the best understands that his life is a direct reflection of his habits. And that is why he builds habits of excellence. not mediocrity. He presents himself punctual, prepared, focused, as someone who already masters his craft, even while still learning. And that discipline, accumulated day by day, inevitably pushes him upward until one day he discovers that what he once pretended to be is now an inseparable part of his identity. The most powerful aspect of this way of acting is that it begins to change the way you perceive yourself. When you walk with confidence, dress with intention, speak with firmness, and fulfill your commitments, your self-esteem grows. And the stronger your self-esteem, the greater your actions. Because the man who sees himself as a winner makes decisions like a winner, while the one who perceives himself as weak merely survives. By acting as the best, you begin to break that vicious cycle of doubt and enter a virtuous cycle of confidence and results. Every action reinforces you. Every advance strengthens you. Every success drives you to behave with greater determination. This principle also extends to how you handle failures. The ordinary man sinks into defeat because he interprets every mistake as proof of his incapacity. The man who acts as the best sees failure as a natural part of the process, as a lesson that brings him closer to mastery. He does not ask, why is this happening to me? But rather, what can I learn from this? And that simple difference in attitude places him above the rest, because while others remain paralyzed in complaint, he's already moving toward the solution. Remember that acting as the best is not arrogance, it is responsibility. Arrogance is based on empty words, on pretending without foundation. Responsibility is based on consistent actions that generate trust. When you act with responsibility and commitment, others respect you, follow you, and recognize you as an authority, not because you demanded it, but because you demonstrated it. True authority is not claimed. It is earned through daily discipline and consistency. If you want to transform, start right now. Ask yourself, what would the best person do in my place? How would he get up in the morning? What habits would he cultivate? What things would he stop tolerating? Then imitate those answers until they become your new normal. Because every great change begins with a decision. The decision to stop living like an average person and start living like someone destined for excellence. The man who dares to act this way, even if he initially has doubts or fears, eventually discovers that he was already stronger than he thought, and that all he needed was to start living with the identity of a winner. Acting as if you were the best is a commitment that pushes you to elevate every aspect of your life, even those that seem small or irrelevant. Because excellence is not demonstrated only in major achievements, but in everyday details, in how you organize your space, how you respect your time and that of others, in the way you care for your body and mind. The man who acts as the best leaves no areas neglected. He does not justify himself by saying, this doesn't matter. He understands that everything he does speaks about him. If you want the world to see you as reliable, you must first be reliable in what no one sees. If you want to be recognized as a disciplined man, you must maintain discipline, even in the smallest tasks. This is how a solid reputation is forged. Living consistently in every action, no matter how minor it seems. By adopting this mindset, you begin to notice that what you once considered normal is no longer acceptable. You discover that you cannot afford to work halfway, that you cannot tolerate surrounding yourself with people who pull you down, that you cannot continue postponing what you know you must do. Mediocrity ceases to be an option, because when you act as the best, you begin to feel the weight of the responsibility to be an example. And that responsibility strengthens you. You no longer act only for yourself, you act to show the world what it means to live with discipline and conviction. That pressure, instead of crushing you, propels you because it forces you to remain firm even in difficult moments. Another powerful consequence is that you begin to attract opportunities that previously did not appear, not because your environment magically changes, but because you have become someone who inspires confidence. Leaders trust those who behave like leaders. Clients seek those who convey security. People follow those who project certainty. Your behavior sends constant signals. Every word, every gesture, every decision tells the world whether they can trust you or not. And when you act as if you are already the best, those signals are so clear that opportunities begin to seek you instead of you seeking them. The mistake many make is thinking they must wait for results to feel confident, when in reality, results come precisely because they decide to act confidently ahead of time. The mind works like a mirror. It reflects what you believe about yourself. If you see yourself as small, you will act small. If you see yourself as weak, you will act weak. But if you see yourself as the best and act accordingly, your mind aligns with that vision and gradually turns it into reality. In the end, acting as the best is choosing discipline over excuses, determination over doubt, action over passivity every day. It is getting up with the commitment to honor your vision, even when no one is watching, even when no one applauds, even when no one understands. Because what you do in silence will be reflected in public, and what you practice in private will someday shine before everyone. That is the law of life. You always reap what you act on, not what you say you desire. Acting as if you were the best also means training your mind to respond with greatness under pressure. Anyone can feel confident when everything goes well, when the environment is favorable, and when results accompany them. But true character is measured in tests, on days when nothing goes as expected, on nights when doubt invades you, in moments when fatigue feels stronger than motivation. That is where most people collapse. But that is where you must choose to behave as the best, because the best does not give up, does not hide, does not justify. The best rises again and again, even when his body says enough, even when his mind asks for rest. That habit of acting with firmness in the midst of adversity is what makes you someone impossible to defeat. Think of a boxer receiving constant blows. The amateur gets discouraged and looks to leave the fight. The champion uses each blow as a sign that he still has the opportunity to demonstrate his strength. The difference is not in the pain they feel, but in the way they choose to act in the face of it. You too will face life's blows, failures, criticism, rejection, losses. The question is, how will you act in those moments? If you respond like an ordinary person, you will sink into complaint. If you respond like the best, you will use each blow as fuel to keep growing. That choice is what separates you from the rest. The man who acts as the best in difficult moments develops resilience that stays with him forever. Every time he chooses to get up after falling, every time he faces criticism with dignity, every time he responds with discipline instead of weakness, he strengthens his spirit. And that firm spirit is what, over time, makes him unstoppable, because it is not the absence of problems that defines a man, but his ability to face them with determination. Furthermore, acting as the best in times of trial has an unexpected effect. It inspires others. People observe you, even if you do not notice. They see how you react, how you remain steady, how you do not give up. And even if some criticize you, many will silently respect you, because they know you are demonstrating what they do not dare to practice. That invisible respect is one of the greatest rewards of acting as the best. Becoming an example others wish to follow. Remember this, anyone can act strong in comfort, but only the truly great act with greatness in adversity. That is why, when trials come, do not see them as punishments. See them as opportunities. Opportunities to demonstrate that your mindset is above circumstances, to prove to yourself that you are stronger than you thought, to reinforce the identity you have been building day by day. Because success is not measured by what you achieve in calm, but by what you maintain in the storm. And if you decide to act as the best in the darkest moments, the whole world will see you shine even brighter when the light comes. Acting as if you were the best means living by a standard so high that even you become your own greatest judge. You do not need someone to supervise you. You do not wait for applause from others. You do not depend on external rewards. You discipline yourself because you know your word matters, because you understand that your identity is built from what you do when no one is watching. That is the difference between an ordinary man and an extraordinary one. The ordinary needs external motivation. The extraordinary is guided by his own demand. And that demand does not come from arrogance, but from a deep commitment to the vision he pursues. You know who you want to be, and every day you act accordingly, even if no one recognizes it. This principle makes you someone difficult to stop. While others fluctuate with their mood, you remain constant because your behavior no longer depends on emotion, but on decision. And the more you practice it, the stronger you become. Over time, even your thoughts align with your actions. You stop questioning whether you can, because you're already proving it with every gesture. You stop worrying about what they will say, because your life speaks louder than any opinion. That coherence between what you think, what you do, and what you project transforms you into someone imposing, someone whose very presence inspires respect. Moreover, acting as the best forces you to manage your time carefully. The average man wastes hours on distractions, justifying it because everyone does. The man who acts as the best turns his time into his most valuable resource, plans, organizes, and invests every minute in something that brings him closer to his goal. This does not mean he never rests. It means even rest has purpose, that nothing is wasted, that respect for time multiplies productivity and always keeps him a step ahead of others. With this mindset, even your circle of relationships changes. You no longer surround yourself with just anyone, because you know each person influences your path. The best surrounds himself with disciplined men, people who add value, examples that challenge him to grow. And when someone in your environment does not meet that standard, you do not hesitate to distance yourself because you understand that your vision is bigger than any tie that holds you back. That sacrifice can be painful, but it is also necessary. In the end, success is not achieved accompanied by everyone, but by the right people. When you live with this level of commitment, you begin to experience a silent but unstoppable transformation. Your habits align, your energy changes, your mind strengthens, and most importantly, you no longer need to convince anyone that, but if you see yourself as the best and act accordingly, your results will speak for you. Your life will become living proof that acting as if you were already the best is not an illusion. It is the most powerful strategy to become one. Because you do not attract what you desire, you attract what you reflect. And if you reflect excellence in every area, excellence will inevitably come to you. Acting as if you were the best also means learning to maintain a long-term vision when most people live trapped in the immediate. Ordinary men seek quick results, instant rewards, visible proof that they are on the right path. But those who act as the best do not need that validation. They understand that success is an accumulation process in which every day counts, even if results are not immediately visible. They know that today's discipline is the seed of future greatness, and that sowing consistently, even if it seems insignificant, will ultimately produce results impossible to ignore. This long-term mindset is what separates the great from the mediocre, because the mediocre give up when they do not see immediate results, while the great remain steadfast, knowing that the harvest always comes. Acting as the best means training patience as much as discipline. It means not comparing yourself to the pace of others, not despairing over others' achievements, not falling into the trap of wanting to speed up a process that naturally requires time. The best understands that every step he takes, however small, brings him closer to his goal, and that his only real competitor is himself. He does not seek to surpass others. He seeks to surpass himself every day. That silent consistency, sustained over years, is what finally places him at the top. It was not a stroke of luck. It was the result of acting as the best, even when no one was watching, even when it seemed he was not making progress. Furthermore, this approach protects him from frustration, because while others complain about not having immediate results, he already knows that the process is part of success. Instead of giving up, he adjusts, improves, and keeps moving forward. The best does not obsess over speed, he obsesses over consistency, and that consistency becomes an unstoppable weapon because it keeps him moving when everyone else has already abandoned the effort. By acting as the best with a vision for the future, he also begins to build a legacy. His actions are no longer only for himself and begin to impact those around him, his family, his friends, his colleagues. All notice the difference in someone who lives with purpose, who upholds his principles, who does not break in the face of difficulty. He becomes an example, and that example transcends far beyond what he could achieve materially. True greatness is not only in what one achieves, but in what one inspires. That is why acting as the best is not a role played temporarily. It is an identity embraced to the end. It is the decision to live by high standards at all times, even when it is uncomfortable, even when no one recognizes it, even when results take time to arrive. And that decision, repeated day after day, turns him into someone distinct, someone impossible to stop. Because while others live for the present, he is building a future that will surpass everyone. That is the reward of acting as the best, knowing that every action, every sacrifice, and every moment of discipline brings him not only to success, but to a life sustained by the greatness of his own character. Acting as if you were the best is, at its core, an absolute commitment to your own greatness. It is not just about posture or words, but about the deep decision to live each day with the identity of a winner. It is understanding that it does not matter where you started, how many mistakes you made, or how many times you fell. What matters is who you choose to be today. And if today you choose to act as if you were the best, tomorrow you will become the man you always dreamed of being. Because life does not give you titles, it gives you opportunities. And those opportunities only open for those who already behave as if they are ready to receive them. This principle is powerful because it puts you in control of your destiny. You do not need to wait for someone to recognize you. You do not need to ask permission. You do not need perfect conditions. All you need is to start acting as if you are already the man you want to become. Your habits, your language, your discipline, your attitude, each of these elements can begin to transform today. And when your actions change, your identity changes. And when your identity changes, your entire reality changes. Transformation is not a magical event. It is the result of living with the conviction that you are already capable, already strong, already disciplined, already worthy of the life you seek. Ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped doubting and started living with the certainty that you are already the best? What decisions would you make? What habits would you adopt? What limits would you break? That answer is not an imaginary exercise. It is the action plan you need. The man who dares to respond with courage and live accordingly becomes unstoppable because he no longer waits, he acts. He no longer dreams, he builds. He no longer speaks of what will be, he demonstrates what is. And here is the truth few accept. You do not become the best by reaching the top, you become the best by acting as such from the bottom. The top is only the reflection of everything you've already practiced in silence. Every decision you made when it seemed insignificant. Every discipline you maintained when no one was watching. Greatness does not appear overnight. It is cultivated with every action of a man who chose to live with superior standards. So stop waiting, stop postponing, stop hiding behind excuses. Act right now as if you were the best. Think like the best, walk like the best, work like the best, live like the best. And over time, what today seems like a conscious effort will become natural, an inseparable part of your identity. Because acting as if you were the best is not a game of appearances. It is the bridge to the life you have always wanted. And when you cross that bridge, you will discover that the impossible has become possible, that the distant has become near, and that the greatness you admired in others was always available to you. The man who acts as if he were the best sooner or later ends up being the best.